Hi, I'm Spencer Christian. On this episode of Tracks Ahead, we'll hop a train that makes Hollywood magic come to life, have a bite to eat on the Columbia Star dinner train, and check out a layout in Iowa that's a link to the owner's own past. But next, we'll explore a new Indiana Arboretum and see how it's embracing its area's rail history. Time to get started.
Set amidst wise and majestic oak trees, the Taltree Arboretum in Valparaiso, Indiana, provides a majestic backdrop for an impressive historic garden railway. Taltree's founders, Damien and Rita Gabes, decided to pepper nature's silence with the sounds of the Great American Railroad, just on a slightly smaller scale.
We were approached in 2004 by some fellows that were the officers and founders of the Indiana Garden Railway Society, and they wanted to know if we would like to host their garden here at Taltree because it would be available all the time for visitors.
James Melton, co-founder and vice president of the Taltree Arboretum Garden Foundation, made it a point to blend the sights and sounds of the railway garden with the abundant beauty located throughout Taltree.
Oh, it's magical. Absolutely magical, especially when the frogs start coming in from the pond, you know, and hear they're croaking. And every engine has a somewhat different sound to it. And we can program a number of sounds into the various type of engines that we have. I had a train when I was 5 years old, and had it running when I was, a kid. And then when I retired, I built a large layout in our basements, O-scale, Lionel, and so we just had a natural attachment for it.
Taltree's Garden Railroad opened to the public in the summer of 2011. The half-acre exhibit requires extensive preparation and nature-sensitive construction. Landscape architect Richard Hitz created the realistic mountain, canyons, and water features at Taltree.
They wanted to build mountains and coal mines and prairies, and so my job was to take all of those elements and get trains out of the basement of the building and up to a mountain top and figure out how that all happens. The trains can only go at 2% slope, like 2 feet per 100. And we had them moving almost 14 feet in elevation. So that's why we have so much track on this perimeter, because it's all going up to the mountains.
Horticulturist Nancy Marshall selected the unique microflora found throughout the over 9 different vignettes representing specific periods in American railroading history.
Everything is into scale here is what we tried for, so 1 inch is 10 feet, so we wanted to use a lot of miniatures, and miniatures only grow 1/4 inch a year. So we would like to use as many miniatures as possible, and then we went from miniatures to dwarf. So there's some very, very, very unique plants here.
Barbara Becker helped plan the exhibit.
My role in the garden was the story rather than the construction. And so I was planning what we would say and how we would say it, and doing the research for the historical accuracy of the story. When I came in with my team, we were looking at this from the visitor's point of view. How do we create a really engaging and rewarding experience for visitors, both in terms of physical comfort, how far can we ask them to walk, and telling a story. Because we know that people like stories, and so anytime you can tell a story, you're golden. And also telling a story of things that a lot of people don't know anymore.
All this hard work has resulted in an elaborate display that delights visitors of all ages. Conductor Dave Simkowski is responsible for the simultaneous operation of 7 different trains that meander through the many landscape settings.
Right now we only run 7 trains at a time out there. We have a digital command control, DCC system, that we utilize to operate the trains. We have a Zemo control operation handheld device. All the trains do. We have mostly steam era engines. from the 1860s to the 1920s we tried to concentrate on to show the building of the railroad across the country and how it affected the country. We start with the building of the railroad. Then we have a couple of vignettes that show the prairie towns as they were built up because of the railroad.
Visitors at Taltree are led through pivotal moments in American history, all told through the stories of the Great American Railroad. Dave and his staff of volunteers built and maintain these historical vignettes.
We have probably 10 volunteers that come on a consistent basis that help me out. I just could not keep up with this if it wasn't for the volunteers that come through here.
As a volunteer here at the Railway Garden, I am responsible for helping to keep the trains going. Early on when the Taltree, as the volunteers to come out here, we worked on the scenes, the vignettes. We helped put some of the buildings together, weatherize them so they look like they've been here for a while, paint some people, and arrange things.
Taltree strives to not only entertain, but educate visitors of all ages.
We have 9 vignettes, and one of them, our Lincoln Funeral Train, is a local vignette because it shows how, as a country, we expanded because transportation is what made that possible. We're very lucky to have 23 docents that work with the program here, and they teach educational programs to learn about our vignettes as well as all of our educational programming here and present the programs to the public and teach them things about nature and about what they're coming to look for at Taltree.
As the oak trees sturdily grow, so will the railway, expanding along its own frontier, while Taltree completes its next phase of development.
We plan to expand to the west of the Phase 1 garden that presents the modern steam era and the diesel era. We have industrial vignettes there and urban vignettes. We'll continue to expand our educational offerings, and at the end of this summer, the field that's behind you, we will be using for a concert venue. We're building a stage there, and it'll be like the lawn at Ravinia.
This young railway will certainly mature, together with the oaks at Taltree.
Preserving both nature and rail heritage earns Taltree a place on your must-travel list. Coming up, a California railroad that caters to both tourists and the movie industry. But first, an Iowa layout that harkens back to the owner's own history.
In a quiet basement in the middle of West Des Moines, Iowa, Jerry Mickey has built a link to his past. A past spent playing pool with retired farmers, getting a haircut on a Saturday night, and walking to town to watch freight trains pass. Until he was 16 years old, Jerry grew up on a farm in Millersville, Illinois, a town with a population of roughly 50 people. It was this time and place that had the biggest influence on his hobby, which had been growing in his basement over the past 15 years.
I think everyone has a period in their life which made an impact. The layout is not totally committed to the 50s and 60s, but primarily it's the 50s and 60s. There are many things on the layout that are from my childhood or memories that sometimes are maybe more important than they should be, but if they're important to me, they're there.
Jerry's interest in model trains began when he was young. His first opportunity to own one happened in 1993 after he visited Doug Dubé's Valley Junction Railroad layout.
So I bought a set from him, took it home, put it on a ping pong table, and it grew and expanded into this today. This is the 4th or 5th layout. Well, the current layout dimension size is 46 feet long. It ranges in width from 4 feet to 14 feet. It's a walk-around layout. It's irregular because of the size of the basement and the shape of the basement. And that's one of the things about this hobby. It'll expand to take all the space available. There are 2 levels to the layout. The upper level is primarily the Illinois Central, or trains that ran in Central Illinois when I was a kid. The lower level is Union Pacific, and it also includes a lot of the railroads that they have taken over.
In addition to keeping the memory of the old main line of Mid-America running, the layout's name is nostalgic as well. The Bear Creek Railroad is named after a 17-mile stretch of country road located next to Jerry's family farm. Bear Creek Road was also near one of his favorite boyhood playgrounds.
A neighbor during my childhood built a baseball diamond in his pasture. Kids from our surrounding community and the farms and the towns, we'd play a team from another adjoining town. The guy who built it would take his truck over, pile in about 12 or 13 kids in the back of his truck, and we'd play a sandlot baseball game on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. Now, if he did that today, I don't know when he'd get out of jail, because driving kids in an open truck down the highway would be frowned upon. But at that time, it was great fun.
Besides having the knack to recreate colorful moments from his childhood, Jerry is also a gifted artist. While many model enthusiasts buy ready-made structures, this layout is completely built by hand.
When I built this layout and started in 2006, I already had several buildings that I built myself. I used those. Other ones, though, I discarded if I hadn't built them. The next change is the yard, which I don't use very much. I've taken that out and putting in a 4-H fair. I have some of the buildings already done, but I've been doing this for about 15 years. I've improved the technique over that time, and if some of them are older and not looking what I think they should look like, I'll just take them out, throw them away, build a new one. And you have to continually challenge yourself to change something and build something new, but it's the journey, it's the building, that's the fun part and the important part.
His loyalty to fun becomes obvious when you get really close and peek inside the buildings. The more you look, the more his light-hearted humor and meticulous detailing begin to emerge.
Well, I'll use anything that I think of it looks real. The materials I use basswood. I use a foam product from Heike Dürr, which is a German company. It's very, very light foam with a brick exterior on it. The most single building that has the greatest interior is the station house. That building took about 3 or 4 months to build. The inside of that building has 22 lights, about 60 people. It was a lot of fun building that one.
Keeping his hands busy has not only been fun, but therapeutic as well. Before he retired, Jerry spent over 36 years working as a store manager. During this time, the layout became a way to unwind.
When I was working, it kept me sane at night. I could come down here and be building something, and all the cares of the day, everything you was worried about, the sales, the markdowns, the salary costs, the journal expense, every expense that you were responsible for, you could forget about that when you was down here.
Over the past 15 years, it's obvious that Jerry has benefited from tinkering with trains and town layouts from his past. What he hopes most is that this hobby will inspire those who come to visit.
When people come down to see my layout, if they say, wow, then we are successful.
Welcome to the Movie Railroad. Located in Ventura County, California, the Fillmore and Western Railroad has a rich rail tradition.
Well, the history of the line, it was the original coastline going up to Santa Barbara. It was built in 1886, and so it has a long, rich history.
As times changed, other railroads took over as prominent transportation sources. Fillmore and Western soon found itself seeking another role.
In 1990s, Fillmore and Western Short Line Enterprises at that time moved onto the property with the deal with the city of Fillmore, and we started a tourist train and basically a movie train. Short Line Enterprises was founded a number of years before, They bought old railroad equipment from the studios, and some of that original railroad equipment is still here today.
The new mission revolves deeply around the film industry. The railroad is sometimes called the route to the chameleon because much of what it does is make-believe.
Producers and the movie companies go to a lot of the different railroads in the country. It's location, location, location. Our fortunate location is we're right next to Los Angeles and Hollywood. And so a lot of our equipment goes off the property and goes to different locations. And a lot of it stays here, and they film some movies here.
The railroad is also a popular tourist line, and visitors enjoy both the behind-the-scenes look at movie magic as well as a scenic ride through citrus groves in the shadows of nearby mountains. As the train pulls out of Fillmore, passengers are treated to a wide variety of scenery.
The line is about 30 miles long, and it goes through historic California. It's Southern California in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and before. Both the towns that we work with here in Southern California is Fillmore, of course, and Santa Paula, and they both have the old city look.
If passengers choose, they don't even need to get off the train to grab a bite to eat. On board, visitors can enjoy a meal in a cafe car steeped in history.
We generally have our cafe parlor car on all the weekends runs. It's a cafe on wheels.
Okay, folks, all aboard! Take your tickets once we get moving.
Oh, thank you.
Basically, on our weekend runs, we utilize Fillmore and Santa Paula. It's 10 miles between the two. It's about a 3-hour trip.
Even though the railway tends to the needs of the film industry with fake scenery and make-believe props, the equipment in the yard and along the line is quite real. Still, sometimes, the railway has to perform its own movie magic by modifying its equipment to ensure a realistic cinematic experience.
If the movies want it a different way, we'll build it to how they want it and make it work for them. Building a tunnel out of shipping containers for Race to Witch Mountain. That took us a few months to get done, and a lot of welding, and they put fiberglass on the ends of it to make it look like an actual mountain.
Well, the bridges are real. The tunnels are fake. We got into a situation several years ago where Disney and us were working on a movie and they had to have a tunnel. So we built the tunnel, they put the facade on the front of it, and we dressed it, and they helped do some dressing, and we've left it on the property. It's 150 foot long. It looks like an old wooden tunnel on one side and the concrete on the other side.
You've probably seen the Fillmore and Western before, since they've done over 400 movies in the past 15 years.
There's a lot of mainline movies that's been filmed on the property, and most people don't even know it's Fillmore and Western because we dress so differently and are capable of that.
A great deal of effort and equipment goes into Fillmore and Western's projects for the movie industry. But it takes more than just rolling stock to satisfy the film location scouts.
We have about 75 pieces of equipment here, and I would say about 20 of them originally came from the studios. Very nice pieces of equipment that are really museum pieces, and we do use them in the movies.
We got 2 Jeep 35s on property, 2 F7s, and 1 S6 right now. We got 1 280 consolidation out here. We totally stripped it down, all the way down to frame and boiler, and rebuilt it from ground up. We got locomotive cabs. We actually have a model of a Jeep 35 that's on an 18-wheeler chassis. You can drive down the highway if you want to. It's all fiberglass.
Wherever you look in the yard, you'll find props, lights, and familiar sound stages.
I have gone out and pretty much collected everything that I want to collect as far as a train car goes. And we're just kind of waiting to see what happens next.
And we too shall wait in anticipation for the next roll, the next act of the Fillmore and Western.
Railroading has a rich history in the movie business. The Fillmore and Western is one of several rail lines that ensure the film industry continues that tradition. The elegance of dining on the rails lives on today in our next visit. Let's head to the middle of Missouri to sample the fare offered on the Columbia Star.
Where can travelers experience a bit of lost American history and enjoy a 4-course gourmet meal in just over 3 hours? The Columbia Star Dinner Train. The journey begins in Columbia, Missouri. The city is located almost directly in the center of the state, making for easy access from both St. Louis and Kansas City. And it's a perfect starting point for a trip by historic rail.
The Columbia Star Dinner Train is a fine dining experience that offers a 5-star meal and also gives our patrons the opportunity to ride trains and experience some of the same services that were offered to passengers 50 years ago.
First to greet the passengers is a pair of F7 diesel locomotives, painted in a color scheme reminiscent of the Wabash Bluebird.
Both F7s are former Great Northern 364A and 464A. They were part of the Burlington Northern merger and later went to the Seattle and North Coast Railroad and then on to the Grand Traverse Dinner Train.
The locomotives hold a special spot for the engineer.
Well, being an engineer is fun. Like I say, I run freight railroads, like doing it. But doing this, you get to see people. I said I really like the dinner train because you see people, you get to see kids, you get to see some excitement. You know, that's what I like about it.
The coaches are also historic pieces of equipment.
Coaches were built for the Southern Pacific Daylight Service in 1938, both of them articulated Pullmans. The interiors were completely renovated inside. The seating was removed and they were converted to tabletops. And it was a pretty extensive renovation to those cars to get them to dinner train service. We also have a 1950 CB&Q Havelock-built baggage car that was converted to a full kitchen car.
No frozen food for this train. Food preparation is done right on board and starts early in the day.
There's a lot that goes into each run as far as myself and the staff. In the days previous to the run, I fill the train up with water. We oversee all the deliveries, that's fuel and food and alcohol and all that good stuff. And then day of, the staff comes in. We light up all the ovens, start firing food, fill our steam tables, and start plating courses. Our most popular dish is definitely the prime rib. We start with a big piece of prime. It's marinated. We slow roast it right up until dinner time when it's sliced thick, topped with a Cabernet wine butter, a natural jus, and we paired it with a baked potato and garlic green beans. Really the best part of this job is the crowd. We have people show up. They're already really excited to be here and ready to have fun, and that makes our job all that much more easy.
All the work isn't in the kitchen. The serving crew's day also starts early.
For preparation and getting everything in order for our runs, our dinner excursions and our brunch excursions on the weekends, my crew has quite a bit that they have to get done. This is a classy restaurant, so everything you see has to be clean, polished, straightened up, organized. I mean, they've got to put their linens down, fold their napkins, get all the silverware has to be hand polished, get their water glasses out, get tea brewed, coffee brewed, make sure the bars are all stocked and set, you know, our fresh garnishes that have to be prepared. I mean, they've got their hands full. There's a lot that has to be done before every trip. This job in particular is really neat because we're on an antique train, and it brings a lot more of a touristy factor into the job, so that's really neat. You get to meet a lot of people that are really enthusiastic about trains and about just this whole genre.
With brunch and dinner runs year-round, the Columbia Star annually serves around 10,000 to 12,000 passengers. As we roll out of Columbia, it's time to relax and watch the sunset as the rolling hills of central Missouri glide past the window. As day turns to night, passengers unwind, and the smells of fresh vegetables and homemade sauces fill the cars. Dinner choices attract every palate. For some, this is a special occasion. For others, it's a fun party. Each is the center of attention as they drift back into the days of romance of fine dining on the rails.
I mean, it's not very often that you get to go out on a nice dinner date and experience a train ride. So it's been a lot of fun, I think, for me.
Whether it's Saturday dinner or Sunday brunch, Columbia Star passengers are left with a brief look at the elegance of dining on the rails.
There's nothing quite like a gourmet meal on board a train like the Columbia Star. And according to our crew, both the train trip and the meal were exquisite. Well, that's all for this episode. Please join us next time for more Tracks Ahead.